Hello, everyone, again to the HireMyVA Team and Business Building Podcast, where we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking the bank, without breaking your bank.
Your bank.
The most important one, right?
Yep.
And I'm Dave Braun, and I'm here with my partner, co-host, buddy, all that good stuff. Larry Broughton.
It gets more awkward every week.
I know.
Dave, I love you. I am glad you're in my life,
bro.
my friend. Man, I feel particularly blessed this week that you're in my life. So thanks, buddy.
Yeah, before we were recording today, we were talking about some pretty intense stuff happening to some of our friends and everything.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Wow. Yep. Let's not take ourselves too seriously with this podcast. Right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, because it got deep there for a bit.
All right. So here is our subject and a question. Somebody asked this one, and I think it's a pretty good one. Okay. So it's a little bit long here, so bear with me. Okay. Do we need non-disclosure agreements, and how would they be enforceable? How do we cover legal issues like exchanging tax or medical info? Ooh. And he goes on to say, these are issues I should have been addressing anyway, but now I must address them if I want to scale.
That is a heavy one to be starting with. It's very... if you're not careful, this can be a legal conundrum, right? I mean, because the truth is, Dave, our program is developed for any VA, no matter where you are. They could be here in the U.S., they could be in Ukraine, they could be in Vietnam, they could be in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is most people who are going through this program that we see so far are hiring people from Philippines and other international countries, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think the question we need to ask is, even though you're doing business with a company where there might be jurisdiction, what's the likelihood you're going to be able to actually enforce that? So if you have a Philippine VA that steals your stuff or shares your information with somebody, do you have the legal means, you have the financial means to pursue that in a Philippine court? Now, NDAs can be drafted in such a way where you say, hey, this is going to be covered under Philippine law, but it's actually going to be tried here in the U.S. But man, that gets complicated, right? So yes, you can do NDAs, of course. But let's say that you've got a Chinese VA. I'm just going to tell you, it's not going to be enforceable. That's the big problem we have between the U.S. and China. Is China's constantly stealing intellectual property. Right?
Absolutely.
So my sense, Dave, is that you should do NDAs and confidentiality agreements with your VAs, even if it's not enforceable. You're setting the tone.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. But additionally, I'd just be careful with what are you sharing with people before there's a level of trust that's built. This is why in the prep section and in the hire section, we talk about integrity, hiring people with integrity. Certainly there are technology issues that you're much more, Dave, you're much more versed in that stuff than I am. And maybe we can talk about that. Like, how do you protect your client's information? But I think my first pass, I may change this during the conversation here today. But the first blush at this is, do NDAs, do confidentiality agreements, because it sets the tone. And so that people know, hey, don't be stealing our stuff. But the truth is, again, executing it is going to be a challenge.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
it gets to the point. Hire a U.S. VA, but also there's insurance, right? There's a business liability insurance that you should have. There's errors and omission insurance that you should have. So, Dave, why don't you jump in on this?
Yeah, and I agree with you, Larry. And part of it starts with making sure you have the proper protection for your business, right? You talked about the errors and omissions, liability insurance, and just making sure you have your LLC formed or your S Corp or whatever, right?
Sure.
And then of course, personally, having maybe an umbrella insurance over you, so that in case somebody does sue you, because the problem is people can sue you for anything at any time, whether or not they are correct. And so you have a lot of costs for that.
Just to protect yourself, whether it's valid or not. This is why I'm not a big fan of sole proprietors.
Yeah.
I really think you need to have some veil of protection. And you kind of alluded to that, right? So whether it's an S Corp or an LLC or whatever it is. And we can talk about that at some other time, but keep going, Dave. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. And I agree with you. But one of the things you have to think about too is if you are handling some sensitive information and you think that there would be a possibility somebody may sue you, and then you even do hire somebody in the U.S. as your virtual assistant, do you have the financial means and the funds to actually pursue them? Because that is going to be really expensive, and you may do that. But I think it does come down to exactly what you said: hiring for integrity. Number one. Number two is you don't give them sensitive information, no matter where they're from, until you feel like they are trustworthy. And then number three is if you're gonna worry about like medical information and social security numbers and all that kind of stuff. If you have to have access to that and you need it, there are proper software programs where you can give access, certain levels of access within the program where they don't see that kind of stuff, that it's hidden. Right. So in other words, they would be able to work on a client's tax information or whatever, but all they would see is dollars and cents. They wouldn't see social security numbers or anything else that might be sensitive. An example I was just looking today is we use TransferWise to go ahead and pay our VAs in the Philippines. Brian and Daff and Adrian right now, and there is a user level that I can give them access to. That the stuff is that. Let's see. I was going to say that my bank account information that's hidden. All they see would be like the last four numbers of it, so that they would know if they wanted to go in, or if I allowed them to go in and actually like had Daff pay somebody else, all she would see is the last four numbers. So she couldn't get my bank information. So I think that's a very important aspect of whatever you're giving them access to, and the software that you have has got to have those protections, and it only makes sense.
Yeah, that's such great points, Dave. I was having coffee with a buddy of mine yesterday, and it's similarly this came up when we were talking about just business integrity, right? And integrity of employees. I think one of the biggest scams and frauds in U.S. history is the whole Bernie Madoff thing, right? And everyone thought that this guy was the real deal because there were people who were the real deal who believed that he was the real deal. Right? Accounting firms thought that he was the real deal, right? Like national, accounting firms, national law firms thought he was the real deal. So you can get bamboozled, even if you think that you're hiring the right person, they answer all the questions about integrity the right way, you can still get bamboozled.
You can.
Is my point. So there is no fail-safe way here. I have hired people in my company over the years who I thought were just amazing people, and I had visions of them growing in the organization. Come to find out they were stealing from me. So it can happen, sadly. I don't know how many bad, ill-intended people are out there, but they're out there, right? And so we just have to be aware. And take those steps, like TransferWise and some of those other steps and NDAs. And there are some people, and I'm one of them, who says that there's two areas that as a business owner, you always need to keep your finger on the pulse. One is the finances and one is the marketing. You must always have your finger on the pulse of those. So even if you are, no matter what it is, have audits in place where periodically you're going to go in and audit this stuff. Because the problem is where people get caught with their pants down, so to speak, is when they have not checked and it goes on for extended periods of time. I could share dozens of stories with you, but if you're going in every couple of weeks and checking work on people, because there's also software where you can check every stinking keystroke that your team members make on their computers.
That's right.
Then you can double check. It's basically, it's forensic audits on things. Because what I've seen over the years is generally it's an incremental thing. Generally, somebody who's in your organization or a VA, they're going to start small first. Generally, they're not going to go in and go for the big dollar amount right out of the gate. They're going to check something small that can be passed off as an error first, a few times, and then over time they're going to embezzle $100,000 or whatever it's going to be. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it definitely starts with having a really good separation between what they can get access to that is sensitive and what they can't.
Mm-hmm.
And you will give them more access over time, but there may be a point where, depending upon your business, that you never give them access to those things. And it's just like, you're the one that has to go do that.
Yep.
And of course, I do love what you said about doing those audits, because, and I think you would want to do them depending upon how sensitive the information is, and you'd want to do it more often or less often, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
good.
I think we've got that pretty well covered. Like, maybe a quick summary is, there is no fail-safe mechanism. Doesn't matter where you live, that you are going to be taking a chance. But the upside of doing this is, you're getting freedom in your life and your business. And
that's right.
And there is no other way. If you're going to be you can choose to be the obstacle that gets stuff to get stuff done. You could be the person that's in the way of having your business grow if you are overprotective of some of this as well, right?
Yeah.
So you just have to be prudent and think about it. And that's one of the reasons why we're here in our community, is these are great questions. You can ask these things, and we can share the different stories and say, okay, well, let's look at this software or that software that may help us protect things.
Yeah. I would encourage folks, as you just said, I'm going to put an exclamation point on it. Go to the community on this, because this is just right now a conversation between Dave and I, based on initial question. And you know how conversations go. Dave might mention something, or I might mention something, and then there's the, oh yeah, but what if this happens? So go to the forum, ask a question there, and between all of us, we can kind of banter and bat this one around. But I think it was a great question.
All right.
Yeah, good.
I think we're done, right, with that one?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Good
Fantastic.
question. I love that question.
That was a fun one. That was a hard one too.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us today. And remember, building a team is the way to reclaim your freedom. And we're here to help you in our course and community. So right now, though, we'd love you to do 3 things right now. Number 1, subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already done so. Number 2, give us a rating, preferably 5 stars. And then number 3 is go to HireMyVA.com for more information on our course and the community. Because remember, even without experience, you'll learn how to prepare for, hire, and thrive with virtual assistants. Blair and I, we love helping folks. These questions are great, and we'd love to help you too and get your questions answered. So just go to HireMyVA.com for more information.
Yeah, do yourself a favor, folks. Get it out of your mind that about this whole lone wolf myth thing, that you can do this by yourself. Participate in the community. Let's go on this journey together. Let's gain more freedom in your life. Do the world a favor. Do yourself a favor, and go do something significant today. All right, team, go get them.
Bye.
Bye.